So let's begin with an effect that can make your video look like it belongs to an old TV. Make a sequence from your video, just drag it right in, zoom in, and we're going to make a new adjustment layer. I'm actually going to use one of these. And before I do that, we're just going to clean this up, our workspace, Make a new bin, add them all in. All right, so there's my bin. I'm going to call this to glitch. It's really important to keep your project panel organized. Now make a new adjustment layer. Let's call this noise. Add this right above. Match the duration with your video. Now on this adjustment layer, we're going to add a grid effect and put it right above the video on the adjustment layer. So you are going to get this effect, but we can work with the settings and add those lines that you see on old TVs. So first of all, let's change the size from width and height sliders. So you're gonna get this, and next we just want to increase the width. So let's go with like 2000 for width, a small number for height. So let's try 3, and essentially we're getting these really thin lines, which is not visible because of our color. So let's make the color black. Now let's reduce the border into 2, and we're getting these really tiny lines. Change the blend mode to overlay, and we can see those better. So when I add to my height, you can see that I'm getting these lines that I'm just working around with. The more lines, the better. Let's go with like 28, and now we got this effect. This was before. Let me zoom in. This is after. So we're getting these thin lines on our subject's face, which is common with old videos. I think I will just reduce my height size and get like a really tiny line. All right, we can also change the anchor and push it all the way to the left so we don't get that middle line. This line, just keep pushing the X value until you don't see it anymore. All right, so once we have this, I'm going to close this off and we can move on to our next effect. So our next effect is going to be a lens distortion effect. And before we continue, let me show you what type of TV I'm talking about. So I'm talking about these TVs. Their screens are usually round, so that's why we're adding the lens distortion. If you had one of these before, then you would know exactly how the video would look like. Look for old TV movie, and you can see how we get this rounded effect, and there's the lines that we just applied. All right, let's go back into Premiere Pro and add the lens distortion effect. Add it right above, and now we're looking to make this a convex video, so we want it to be rounded. Not quite like this, maybe like 40. Just a little bit of the roundness. I think I'll go with 30. If your subject's face is in the middle, then it's going to look like this. So try not to make them look funny and keep the number small. But if you don't have a subject in the center, then you can go higher. Add the lens distortion above the grid effect, and we're starting to get close to the old TV effect. All right, I'm also going to add like a vertical decentering effect. Let's try 10 for that. It's going to go to the other side. And now you can see that we're kind of curving the grid effect. Next, we just want to nest these two together so we can fill up the white space. Name it old TV. Grab it, motion, and just increase it until it fills the screen. All right. You can also use the position values to center your subject. Next, we're going to go in here and add our next effect, which is the noise effect. Add noise right above. Go to effect controls. This time we want color noise since it's pretty common in those type of TVs. Add a good amount of noise. Let's go for 10. Let's zoom right in and see how much we're adding. Guess I'll go for 20. All right. And I'm just going to move this above my grid effect so we get a softer look. There's my TV. So now I got my noise, I got my lens distortion. You can always count back for the noise, but 20, 25 should be good. Once you're done, click away and we can move on to our Lumetri color panel to make this look more like a retro TV. So grab your video. I'm just going to duplicate it. Option or Alt, click and drag. Grab the middle, duplicate. You can also lock the original. Go to the Lumetri workspace. And now we can color grade this into a retro look using what we learned so far. So remove from the contrast. And we're going to brighten up those shadows. Next, we want more of a yellow look than blue. So go to shadows, pull it towards the warmer side. Do the same thing with midtones and add some green to the highlights. So green and red are pretty common in retro films. So work around with that. I'm gonna add green to the midtones and red to the highlights. All right. Looking good. Let's add some vignette the other way so it becomes darker. And go to the creative section, add to the vibrance. It's going to look a little purple, but we can just tint this and make it look the way we want it to. I'm going to add some yellow to this to cancel out those blues. Next, we're going to remove from the sharpness of this video. Finally, go to curves and make this perfect. So I want less purple in this video. Add some green to get rid of the purple. As for blue, I want that gone as well. So the coloring is really up to you. Work with the different curve adjustments until you get something you're happy with. And you can also hide away the noise layer if you saw that things are getting a little laggy. It's pretty normal, but just turn that off for a second. Work with the coloring of your video and then we can turn it back on. So I'm going to turn mine towards the greener side. This is what my blue channels and green channels look like. We did not use red yet, so I'm going to add some red in there and make this look good. So there's my retro look. I'm also going to add a yellow tint over it. So let's go back to the editing panel, make a color matte. I'm going to get like the yellow from here, add it in between, hide the noise layer for a second, and just change the blending mode of this middle one. You can also add like a preset if you'd like. I'm going to stick with like something like this. Lower the opacity if it's too much for you. And there we go. Turn the noise layer back on and we got ourselves a pretty retro looking video. So now what we're going to do is to just nest all three, not the original. Right click, nest, call this old TV. Grab that and we're just going to scale it in so we don't get this white bar. You could kind of fit this inside an actual TV. So if you search for the old TVs, you can see that there was some green screen footage here. Just like download one of these images from the internet or videos, remove the green screen and replace it with your altered clip. So we make it look like it came from an actual television. I'm going to leave mine like this. Adjust the scale. Now we're going to go on the original video in the nested sequence and grab a channel blur effect. Add it right on. Effect controls, let's close all of these. And on channel blur, you get to blur out the different channels. So we got red, green, blue, and alpha. I'm just going to blur out the red. Let's blur out the blue and some green. I'm going to hide my other layers for a second. And now this is what it looks like. If it's too much, just reduce it down. So green, blue, red. The blurring is happening based on color. And as you recall, in those old videos, we don't really have super crisp details. So I got this. Next, I'm going to add the chromatic aberration effect on the original video. And I'm just gonna like separate these a bit. We mostly have blue, so 10 for blue and maybe 8 for green. It's looking pretty good. You can change the point of interest. Maybe put it on his glasses. The center of the video, if your subject is on the side, pull it there. And then we have the fall of distance. So I want it to be rather subtle. And there we go. So work with that. Once you're done, close it off, get the other effects back. And then we can go back to our main sequence. To avoid the error that Premiere Pro gives sometimes for GPU acceleration, it's going to be a red line here. Just copy the VR chromatic aberration from the video here and paste it onto the nest itself. So essentially this effect is going to go above all the other effects that we made inside the nest. And it's pretty normal for your Premiere Pro to be a little slow because of all of the effects that we put on. Just make sure that you're saving your project as you go and that you have autosave turned on. If you don't have autosave turned on, go to Premiere Pro, Preferences, Autosave, and choose like automatically save every minute and set a maximum number. And be sure to turn this on. It's really important because you may be working on a project that does not even have that much effects, but suddenly the program is going to shut down and you will end up losing everything. So make sure you have autosave turned on no matter what. So this is our effect. You can take it a step further with like an overlay or just like add some noise yourself. So I'm going to make another adjustment layer. Let's just get this one. Put it right above, go to Effect Controls, the Effects panel, and look for the Fractal Noise Effect. Add this above. It's going to look a little glitchy. We can turn off old TV for a second and just focus on this noise. So in here, we're going to change the type into, go into Basic, increase the contrast, lower the brightness. We want really tiny details. Complexity, increase that. Evolution, just try to get a different one. Go to transform and we want to scale this down. So we want really tiny particles. Tilt, we can tilt it if you want and get something else. It's looking good. Sub settings, let's work with the scaling, reduce it. We want tiny details. Sub influence, want to increase that. So we're getting this white noise effect. You could invert it and get a different result. I'm going to keep mine normal. Change the blending mode to overlay. So now we have a picture, but once we change the evolution keyframe, we're going to get like a TV noise effect. So I'm going to turn evolution to 0, make a keyframe at the start, go to the end, and we're looking for a really fast animation. So 5 times 0. And that's going to give us like a lot of these movements. All right, got all these movements. Random seed, I also want to make a keyframe for that, 0. Then like increase it quite a lot so we get this crazy TV noise effect. Once you have changed your blending mode, you can go back to subsettings and maybe add or remove from the scale. Just get something you're happy with. I'm just working with the settings here to get a crazy look. I'm going to reduce my subscaling to 17 or just a smaller number. All right, once I have this, I can maybe reduce the opacity and get a softer noise effect. You can even experiment with the different blending modes. So if you want white noise, choose screen. So I get overlay. Let's bring the old TV layer above noise. Bring it back. So once I bring the layer back, we have this effect. But I just changed the adjustment layers blending mode to screen. So we get this white bright effect. And now I'm just going to cut this noise into chunks. So grab your eraser tool, make those tiny cuts that we made for the other lesson. 6 frames. And I can just delete this. Instead, duplicate this little cut around my video. Disable snapping and you're going to have an easier time duplicating these layers. Maybe make one larger, one smaller. It's all up to you. And to make it better, we can add the noise. Just match it with the cuts. I'm going to render this and then we can see the final product. So now we have this effect. You can fit this inside the retro TV. And if you want to fill up these guys up, you just have to nest your adjustment layer and just scale it up normally. So this was our third effect. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at our final effect. See you guys there.